From digital music news, Spotify employees demanding direct editorial oversight over Joe Rogan podcasts before they're published. And immediately everyone laughs. Joe Rogan says, "No way, you're not going to be able to tell me what to do, who to host. Never gonna happen." And you know what? That's true. You're never going to force Joe Rogan to do something he doesn't want to do. However, there is a major weak spot here for the Joe Rogan podcast, and it really comes down to whether or not Joe's contract is sound. I believe that we may actually be moving in a dangerous direction for Joe's podcast. Whether or not Joe cares is an entirely different conversation. This is like the third or fourth time I've talked about Joe, and I think it's kind of weird because he's just a dude who does a show. But it's the biggest podcast in the world, and it really is one of the most important shows. And we may be looking at some potential bad news. Now, obviously, full disclosure, I know and talk to Joe Rogan. He's an awesome guy with an awesome show, and I wish him the best. And we talk periodically, and the same is true for periodically talk to Jack Dorsey and stuff like that. But whether or not I know somebody, am friends with them, and or I'm going to be completely honest and tell you exactly what I think. And I think, based on my sheer ignorance, because I don't know what's in Joe's contract with Spotify, we may actually be looking at some serious damage coming towards the Joe Rogan experience, and it may lose a lot of that luster that made it great. You may have seen the segment I did yesterday. Joe Rogan apologized. The apology was a huge mistake, in my opinion. Joe had said something on his show that was mostly true. He had said that there were people lighting fires in Portland. He then said there have been, leftists or activists, people who have been arrested for this. That's the mistake. He used the plural referring to activist. It was one leftist activist who got arrested, and there were several other people who were arrested for starting fires in the Portland area and up and down the West Coast. It's a fact. The left attacked Joe. He apologized for it. A lot of people said it was a classy move. The only problem is Joe's correction was wrong. He straight up said he said one guy got arrested, but it was somewhere else. And then, people weren't arrested for starting fires. That just made everything worse. And it shows, for whatever the reason is, Joe caved to a fact standard that does not apply to the left itself. If Joe Rogan is willing to make corrections at the behest of left-wing outrage or corporate outrage, but these other organizations don't do the same in the other direction, once again, we are seeing the leftward lurch. Does Joe have to apologize if he calls Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist? No. Who's going to complain? Well, to be honest, though, Joe probably would say that was a mistake. I didn't realize, because Joe has integrity. But will he get the same flack? Probably not, because the left is well organized and this is how it works. Let me tell you what my quick theory is as to why Joe apologized. And then we'll read the story. The left didn't attack Joe Rogan and demand he make any changes. There was no demand over his editorial content. They attacked Spotify, damaging Spotify's stock value. Spotify then says to Joe, "Hey, look, man, they're attacking us. You got this thing wrong. Can you fix it?" Joe probably says, "Dude, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'll put in an apology." He wasn't forced to do it. It wasn't because he did something wrong and he didn't have to say to these people, F off. It was because they were attacking his friends and his partners. You get it? That licensing arrangement now means that Joe has created a new area of vulnerability. The people he cares about and does business with. You see, I think Joe Rogan is a good dude who cares about having integrity and being good to people. If he did a deal with Spotify and then something he did causes harm to them, he's going to do the right thing because he's a good dude. But like I said earlier, will we see Media Matters for America come out if Joe says something that hurts the right wing? Of course not. In which case, the pressure placed upon Spotify and Joe will only come from the left, or for the most part, from the left. Of course, Joe has seen flack from the right. It's probably why I went on his show and challenged Jack Dorsey and Twitter, because people were like, "Yo, you were wrong." And that's what happens when Joe is an independent podcast. But now his show is licensed exclusively to Spotify. And herein lies the big risk, in my opinion. And I want to preface this by saying I got no idea what's in Joe Rogan's contract, and none of this may be apt because maybe he's covered all his bases. But I'll tell you what people are saying. I'll tell you what I think. In this story, they say a group of Spotify staffers are now reportedly pushing to introduce direct editing oversight over the Joe Rogan experience before the episodes go live. That includes content flags, trigger warnings, references to fact-checked information, or simply refusing to publish the episode at all. The demands follow a string of controversial comments by Joe Rogan, who was lured to Spotify with a massive deal. We get all this point, all this stuff. Earlier this month, Digital Music News first reported multiple podcast episodes were missing following a migration to Spotify's platform. That included shows like Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos, Gavin McInnes, Charles C. Johnson, Molyneux, Owen Benjamin, people like that. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. You get the point, right? They've already removed several episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience from Spotify. And a lot of people were angry about this. Like, why was my episode not appearing on Spotify? Well, those episodes are going to be on YouTube forever. And even though Joe is exclusively licensing the show to Spotify, his clips will still exist on YouTube as well. So you can still find his episodes just piece by piece on the Joe Rogan clip channel. But let's talk about what this means if they've already removed episodes. I bring you now to a tweet from James Lindsay. James Lindsay, of course, has appeared on the Rogan podcast and is very famous for as a member of the Sokol Squared group, where they performed this hoax on academic institutions. Basically, if there's anybody who knows anything about critical race theory, SJWs, James Lindsay is probably the foremost expert. He says, in response to the article, LOL, they don't know the first rule of Rogan. Nobody tells Rogan what to do or how to do it. Ha! Hot dog, you are correct, James Lindsay. But no one tells Spotify what they have to publish. And it would appear that Spotify chose not to publish several episodes. Let's take that to its logical conclusion. I'm curious, and I don't know, but I'll mention potential pitfall. Does Spotify have an obligation to air every single Joe Rogan Experience episode? It would seem that the answer is no, because several episodes are missing. So what happens if Joe says, you can't tell me what to do? I'm going to upload my episodes and host whoever I want. And then he has on Alex Jones. Does Spotify have to air it on their platform? I'd have to imagine the answer is no. I mean, Joe said it's just a licensing deal, right? Okay. Does that mean they have to publish? I personally would find it odd, considering the deals I've done with various networks, or I should say negotiated, because I always turn them down for basically this reason. You'll get a network saying, we're going to publish your podcast, Tim. I've been told this. We're going to publish your podcast. We're going to make you all this money. We're going to do these things. And I always say no. Because I say, do you have to publish my podcast? Well, I mean, we want to make... Oh, no. Question. If I upload a podcast, do you have... If I record a podcast, do you have to publish it if you have exclusive rights for the podcast platforms? Well, no. I mean, okay, wait. Let me stop you right there. If I'm not the one who's publishing because I license my content to you, what happens when you say, not this episode, but we appreciate it, here's your money? I still get paid, but then my content doesn't appear. In fact, this is called golden handcuffs. It's similar to the golden handcuffs concept. When I worked for ABC News Univision, I felt like I was placed in golden handcuffs. They told me, we don't want to do those things. You can go ahead and do whatever you want, and we won't air it. I got paid, I made content, and it's why a lot of the content went up on my personal YouTube channel, Golden Handcuffs. We agree to support your work, help you produce these documentaries, send you traveling around the world to do your thing. And then when I would come back and say, here's the doc, they would say, that's cool, put it on your channel. We're not going to air it. Now, I was lucky enough that was the case, that I was able to still put it out. But many of these contracts will say something to the effect of, we have the sole right to publish, not obligation to publish. Now, listen, do I think they're going to ever outright cancel a Rogan episode? No. But what did they say they wanted? Trigger warnings? Fact checking? Oh, there it is. So what happens if Joe Rogan comes out now and accurately says, I did this correction and I was wrong. Turns out there was a ton of people arrested for arson. Just only one guy was an activist. What happens if they then say fact check and link to bunk fact checks? Why not? Why can't they? Does Spotify have a specific arrangement saying that they can't show other episodes next to Joe Rogan? I honestly don't think that would be the case, but I could be wrong. Listen, Joe's a smart guy. All right. I'm sure he has very expensive lawyers. I'm sure they carved out exactly what's going to happen and why. And maybe the initial agreement said something about certain episodes not being ported over. Or maybe Joe made a mistake. I honestly don't know. But I do think the only thing that matters is this. When Joe was independent, YouTube was an attack vector. The left could go after YouTube, and they tried. But YouTube is too big. Spotify is an exclusive deal. You see, YouTube could say, listen, look, Joe says his thing, and if he violates the rules, we'll strike, his channel, but we don't have a deal with him. Like, we don't have an exclusive contract. He just publishes here like anywhere else. He's on iTunes, for instance. So I'll tell you the deal. If your podcast is not exclusive and it's everywhere, well, then if they go to YouTube, they got to go to iTunes. If they go to iTunes, they got to go to Spotify. So for me, if you want my content down because you disagree with it, you got to go to every single network. That makes it much harder because YouTube's going to be like, we don't want to lose out to iTunes. If we take them down and then YouTube doesn't, and then iTunes doesn't, we lose out. They win. Our competition wins. Joe went exclusive. Now there's one attack vector, and it's Spotify. Here's what I said. In response to James Lindsay, Phil That Remains replied, I hope you're right. I said, leftists attack Spotify over forest fire comment. Spotify says, damn, Joe, that was wrong, and they're attacking us. Joe says, damn, sorry, I'll apologize. Joe issues confusing and incorrect apology, making it worse, but appeasing the leftists. Rinse and repeat. I then said, no one tells Joe what to do, but he is licensing his show to them. Is Spotify under an obligation to publish? They already omitted several episodes. Now Spotify employees could say, cut this section out. It's just a licensing deal, right? Spotify doesn't have to publish anything. Now, I'll tell you this. Because of the clause that Joe has about his clip channel, or I should say, Joe said when he does a podcast, they're still going to make segments and put them on YouTube. That probably says to me they can't alter episodes before they upload them. So the episodes will probably be aired in full no matter what. Unless, of course, Spotify has the ability to say, not this one. It appears they already did. Now, I don't know what the deal is between Joe and Spotify, but I'll tell you my concern is that the left will attack Spotify relentlessly. This will hurt their bottom line, and there is no other competition to reap the benefits. I guess theoretically, maybe I'll tell you this. Maybe Joe's whole gamble was Spotify offers him all this money, and then when they finally buckle under the pressure of the far left, the contract is severed, he goes independent again, and he keeps all the money. I don't know, man. I'll leave it with this. Whatever Joe does, it's entirely up to him, and I don't care. If you don't like the Joe Rogan podcast or what it becomes or what it is now, then don't listen to it. I know a lot of people are concerned because there's something their love is maybe being taken away, but we're not even at that point yet. It's important to call it out before it happens to make sure it doesn't. But listen, ultimately, Joe's got his own life to live. And I think a lot of people that are mad about this are more concerned about losing the culture war because Joe is so important to regular and moderate Americans. That's fair. But at the end of the day, Joe's going to do what he wants to do. And I respect his individuality, his choice to run a show. And look, I'm just speculating, but the stories are going to keep coming out because we knew it was only a matter of time before they tried to shut him down. And I think they will actually gain some leverage over him because they're organized, powerful, and Spotify will panic. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.